Good morning and welcome back, guys. Myself, Dr. Gibran Ahmed, presents to you Simply Pathology, and today we are going to start a very interesting topic, that is viral hepatitis part 1. So this topic is very important, okay, not only from your exam, your college point of view, or it is also important from competitive exam point of view. One or the other question is being asked from viral hepatitis. Okay, so viral hepatitis, okay, it can be caused by both hepatotropic as well as non-hepatotropic viruses. So what are these hepatotropic viruses? So we already know about them. These are hepatitis A, B, C, D and E, whereas the non-hepatotropic viruses are Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex virus, adenovirus and yellow fever virus. So in this particular lecture, we are going to see the basics of each hepatotropic virus along with its epidemiology, incubation period, routes of transmission, serology and the chronicity of the virus. In this lecture, we are going to read about hepatitis A, B and C, and in the next lecture, we are going to read the remaining portion. Now first we are going to start with hepatitis A. So if you see this hepatitis A, it is a self-limited disease, okay? They do not have any carrier state and it doesn't lead to chronic hepatitis. It is responsible for approximately 25% of the cases of acute hepatitis worldwide, and the route of transmission is fecal-oral route, okay? It is the fecal-oral route via the contaminated food and water. All these points are very important because these questions can come in multiple choice questions, and they will give you whether it is self-limited, whether it is having chronicity or no, whether it is responsible for acute hepatitis or no. So all these options will be given and you have to select the right option. Okay, in developed nation, because of consumption of raw or steamed shellfish, okay, which will concentrate in the viruses from contaminated seawater, okay, so from here there can be transmission of hepatitis A virus. There is no maternal to fetal transmission, that is there is no vertical transmission from the mother to the child, okay. Remember that hepatitis A virus, it is a single-stranded RNA virus belonging to Picorna virus family, okay, and it is basically a non-enveloped virus. It is icosahedral and 27 nanometer in diameter. So remember, it is a single-stranded RNA virus belonging to Picorna virus family, and also it is non-enveloped virus. Now the receptor for hepatitis A on the hepatocyte, it is called as HAV-C gamma 1, also known as TIM1 receptor. Now HAV or hepatitis A virus, it is not cytopathic, and the hepatocytic injury in hepatitis A is because of the cytotoxic T lymphocyte and the natural killer cell that is recognizing and killing the hepatocytes which are infected with the virus. Okay, so hepatitis A virus is shed in the stools 2 to 3 weeks before and 1 week after the onset of jaundice. The incubation period of hepatitis A is around 2 to 6 weeks. Now you also have to remember that IgM antibody, okay, against hepatitis A virus, okay, it is a marker of acute infection, okay. It appears with the onset of symptom and it will persist for around 3 to 6 months, okay. So I repeat, the IgM antibody against HAV, hepatitis A virus, it is a marker of acute infection. It is also appearing with the onset of symptom and it is persisting for 3 to 6 months. Now the IgG antibody, it appears during recovery from the acute infection and it will persist for years, and this particular IgG antibody is conferring lifelong immunity. Now the clinical features, if you see, it is characterized by fatigue, loss of appetite, jaundice, rash and arthralgia. Now acute liver damage occurs in 0.1 to 0.3% patients who are affected with hepatitis A virus. Okay, now now we are going to start with hepatitis B. So we are going to first start with hepatitis B. Before starting that, we have to remember that hepatitis A resolves in around 3 to 6 months. Now we start with hepatitis B virus. Now what are the major clinical presentation of the hepatitis B virus? Now it is acute hepatitis followed by recovery and clearance of the virus. For example, a patient is infected with hepatitis B virus. He can have an acute episode which can be followed by recovery, full recovery and the clearance of the virus. Again, there can be acute hepatic failure also with massive liver necrosis. The third clinical presentation is chronic hepatitis with or without progression to cirrhosis, and the fourth important feature is asymptomatic healthy carrier state. So these are the four ways in which the hepatitis B can present clinically. Okay. Now if we see, hepatitis B virus is a partially double-stranded DNA virus belonging to Hep adeni-viridae family. So it is now a double-stranded DNA virus and it belongs to the Hep adena-viridae family. Some important points regarding that is also that hepatitis B virus, it is an enveloped virus. If you remember, hepatitis A was non-enveloped. Now Hep B is enveloped and it is a 42 nanometer viral particle, also called as the Dane particle. Okay. One important thing over here is that it has a 27 nanometer inner core with circular double-stranded DNA. Okay. One important thing that I have to mention over here is that hepatitis B is having a surface antigen that is called as HBs antigen, and that HBs antigen is called as the Australia antigen. Okay, that I have already written over here. Now, secondly, we will see the virus is having multiple parenteral modes of transmission via unprotected sexual activity, blood transfusion, sharing of needles, syringe, IV drug abusers, transfusion related, though the incidence of a Hep B which is associated with transfusion has reduced. Vertical transmission, that is from the mother to the child during the childbirth, it accounts for 90% of the cases in high prevalence region. Okay, and horizontal transmission in children via minor cuts or breaks in the skin is also common. Okay, so now let us see one thing, that complete hepatitis B virus particle is called as the Dane particle, whereas a surface antigen, that is the HBsAg antigen, that is the Australia antigen. Remember, the incubation period of hepatitis B is around 8 weeks. Mean is 8 weeks. The range is 2 to 26 weeks. So remember, the infection can become chronic in 5 to 10% of the infected individual. That is, chronic infection can occur in 5 to 10% of all the individuals who are infected with hepatitis B. Now, the risk of chronic infection is inversely related to the age. Therefore, the risk is greatest, that is around 90%, in infants who are exposed to the virus from their mothers at the time of birth. Okay, so this is all about the epidemiology. Again, the individuals with the chronic hepatitis B infection, they are also at an increased risk of hepatocellular carcinoma. So the carrier state exists for hepatitis B. So there is also a carrier state which is existing for hepatitis B. Remember two things over here. So what is the carrier state? The carrier state can present in two ways. Either these will be individuals who harbor the virus but they do not have any liver disease, or these are individuals who harbor the virus and they have asymptomatic non-progressive liver damage. So these cases are actually reservoirs of infection. So both of these cases are reservoirs of infection. So remember, how will you identify a healthy carrier? So a healthy carrier, okay, is HBsAg positive, anti-HBe positive, absent HBe antigen, normal serum transaminases, whereas they will have low or absent serum HBV DNA. Okay, so about all these all these antigens and antibodies, we are going to read about them shortly in this lecture only. And we have to understand one thing, that the term healthy carrier is just used for hepatitis B. Okay, there is no such carrier form or healthy carriers in hepatitis C. Okay, and once again I will say, a healthy carrier is characterized by a positive HBsAg antigen, positive anti-HBe antibody, absent HBe antigen, absent serum HBV DNA, and normal serum transaminases. So acute liver failure is quite rare in hepatitis B, okay, and only 0.1 to 0.5% of individuals infected with hepatitis B are acutely infected. Now, acute hepatitis B infection is mild or subclinical in around 2/3 of the cases. It is mild or subclinical. Okay, so I will just let you know about the basic structure of the hepatitis B, that is the Dane particle. Okay, so see, on the surface they are having certain envelope protein, that is the HBsAg antigen. Now this HBsAg antigen can be of three types. There can be a large surface protein HBs, small surface protein HBsAg, and medium surface protein HBsAg antigen. Then we can see, if we go on the inner side, we are having the HBe antigen, we are having the core antigen, that the HBc antigen, then we are having the double stranded DNA, okay, and the plasma membrane is a lipid membrane bilayer. So these are the major particles or major components of the hepatitis B virus. Okay, and yes, and we also have the enzyme DNA polymerase. Now moving ahead, the hepatitis B encodes the following proteins. Okay, now we are going to understand these antigens or the proteins that is encoded by hepatitis B virus. So the hepatitis B surface antigen, that is the HBS antigen, it is a viral envelope glycoprotein, and there are three such types. There is a large HBS AG, middle HBS AG, and small HBS AG. Now we have to understand that HBS AG, it is the earliest marker of hepatitis B infection, and it appears even before the onset of symptoms. The levels will decline to undetectable levels in around 12 weeks. Now, if by any chance there is a persistence of HBS AG antigen for more than 6 months, it is going to indicate the chronic infection. Now, level of HBS AG peaks during acute symptomatic disease. Okay. Further, people who are infected with HBS AG antigen, okay, they can either be acutely infected individuals, or they can be chronically infected individuals, or they can even be carriers. Okay, so individuals who are testing positive for HBS AG, depending on the clinical features, they can be divided into acute, chronic, as well as carrier. Okay, now we are going to see the second important protein encoded by the hepatitis B virus, that is hepatitis B core antigen or HBC antigen. It is basically a nucleocapsid protein which is playing an important role in the assembly of the complete virion. Now remember that the HBC antigen, it is not detectable in the serum. You have to understand that they are not detectable in the serum. Okay. Now HBE antigen, if you see, it is a marker of viral replication and infectivity. It is indicating high infectivity and active disease. It is produced only during the viral replication period. Also remember, the next enzyme that is encoded by the hepatitis B is the HBV polymerase. It is exhibiting both DNA polymerase as well as reverse transcriptase activity. The next protein encoded by hepatitis B is HBx protein or HBx antigen. It is not necessary for viral replication, but an important MCQ over here is that it is playing an important role in hepatocellular carcinoma. Now remember that the entry of the hepatitis B virus into the hepatocyte is enabled by binding of large HBS AG to the bile salt transporter, that is known as sodium taurocolate co-transporting polypeptide, that is called as NTCP. I repeat again, the entry of the hepatitis B virus into the hepatocyte is enabled by the binding of large HBS AG to the bile salt transporter known as sodium taurocolate co-transporting polypeptide present on the hepatocytes. Okay. Now hepatitis B virus, again itself, it is not cytopathic, but the immune response against the virus infected cells by the cytotoxic T cells that leads to hepatocellular injury. Okay, now other serological markers of hepatitis B infection are anti-HBs antibody. Remember, its production is beginning only after the disappearance of the HBs AG antigen. Sometimes the anti-HBs antibody doesn't appear after disappearance of the HBs AG. Therefore, this becomes your window period. In this time, the diagnosis is made by detection of IgM anti-HBC antibody. Remember, not S. IgM anti-HBC antibody. Okay, and this anti-HBs antibody is not produced in chronic hepatitis B infection. Also, this important note you have to understand. Okay. Now remember, anti-HBC, now we are going to understand. Now it is the first detectable antibody that we see, and the IgM anti-HBC, it is indicating acute infection. Remember, it is the most reliable marker of acute infection, as it is the only serological marker which is detectable during the window period. Okay, the IgM anti-HBC, it is the most reliable marker of acute infection with hepatitis B, and it is the only serological marker which can be detected during the window period. Window period is that period wherein the HBs AG is also not there and the anti-HBs antigen is also not there. So in that period we can just detect IgM anti-HBC. Okay, now IgG anti-HBC is indicating the previous ongoing infection. Okay, now we look at the anti-HBe antibody. It signifies that the acute infection has peaked and it is on the wane. In chronic infection, anti-HBe is again not produced. Okay. Okay, now we are going to see about the HBV DNA. Now it measures the quantitative viral load. Okay, how much is the load of the hepatitis B virus, okay, in the body. It is indicating the viral burden and the viral replication. It is also very effective to differentiate between an inactive carrier state from the chronic active hepatitis and chronic HBV infection. So in case of an inactive carrier state, as we already saw, the HBV DNA levels will be low, whereas in case of chronic active hepatitis, the levels will be higher. Now, the marker of viral replication can be both quantitative as well as qualitative. So, in the quantitative marker, the answer is hepatitis B virus DNA more than the HBV DNA polymerase, whereas the qualitative marker of viral replication will be hepatitis B E antigen, HBe antigen. Now, we have to understand one thing, that all these three markers, that is the HBe antigen, HBV DNA and the HBV DNA polymerase, all these three are detectable in the serum soon after HBs antigen appears, and they signify active viral replication. Okay. Now moving ahead, there is something called as the pre-core or the basic core mutant HBV. Okay, so what is that? Remember, some mutated strains of HBV emerge. They are HBe antigen negative, but they are replication competent. So even if serologically they are showing that they are negative for the HBe antigen, yet they are showing replication. So they are expressing HBc antigen. They are having very high serum levels of HBV DNA, indicating a very high viral replication. Again, they are also anti-HBe positive. Okay, so again, this is a paradox. I already said before that when anti-HBe is positive, that means that the disease has come down and there is a recovery. But over here it is not the case. It is paradoxical. Here the replication is going on. There is persistent or intermittent elevation of AST or ALT. It presents with severe and progressive form of disease, and it is associated with cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Now we are going to see the different clinical spectrums of hepatitis B and how we diagnose them with the help of serology. So there are four important markers, serological markers like HBsAg, IgM anti-HBc, IgG anti-HBc, and we are having IgG anti-HBs. So in case of an acute hepatitis B infection, as you know, they will be positive for HBs antigen, plus they will be positive for IgM anti-HBc in the acute hepatitis B infection. As we have already discussed in the window period. First of all, what is the window period? Window period is that period where the HBsAg antigen is negative along with anti-HBs negativity. So over here, the only reliable marker is your IgM anti-HBc, which comes out to be positive, and that will be the only serological marker which will be positive in that time. Now, in case if it is a previous infection, only IgG anti-HBc as well as the IgG anti-HBs will show positivity. For example, if you have received a vaccination for hepatitis B, in that case, in case of immunization, only IgG anti-HBs will be positive. In case of chronic infection, now remember, chronic infection is characterized by persistence of HBsAg antigen more than 6 months. So over here, you will have positivity for HBsAg, plus you will have positivity for IgG anti-HBc, whereas IgM anti-HBc may or may not be positive. Okay, so this is all about the various clinical spectra of hepatitis B. Now let us see the fate. What is the fate of hepatitis B? Now acute infection, remember, in 65% of the cases that will have a subclinical disease, and 100% subclinical disease, they can undergo recovery. Again, 25% of the acute infection, they can have acute hepatitis, and 99% can again go for recovery, whereas 1% or very less amount can go for fulminant hepatitis leading to death or transplant. Now 5 to 10% of the acute infection, if you see, goes for chronic hepatitis. Okay, will go for chronic hepatitis, and in 1 to 2% they show spontaneous clearance and recovery, whereas 20 to 30% will show cirrhosis. Okay, and or they might develop HCC also, and ultimately they can lead to death or transplant of the liver. Okay, now we are going to discuss about hepatitis C. Now if you see about Hep C, again it is an enveloped single-stranded RNA and most common cause of chronic viral hepatitis. The mode of transmission is either parenteral, IV drug abuser, intranasal cocaine, multiple sexual partners, needle stick injury, transfusion as well as perinatal transmission. So the incidence of transfusion as well as perinatal transmission has reduced. Okay, now it belongs to the Flaviviridae family, okay, that encodes an enveloped single-stranded RNA which is having 2 envelope protein E1, E2 and 5 core proteins like P7, NS2, NS3, NS5A, NS5B. Now remember, the incubation period is around 4 to 26 weeks. The mean is around 9 weeks. Now the risk of chronicity of Hep C virus is around 80%. Okay, so for hepatitis B it was just around 5 to 10%, but over here it is around 80%. Okay, now HCV RNA in the blood, okay, along with your transaminase, they rise 1 to 3 weeks after acute infection, whereas the anti-HCV antibody emerges 3 to 6 weeks after the infection. Now persistence of the HCV RNA after 4 to 6 months indicates chronic HCV infection. Now the screening test for HCV is your anti-HCV antibodies. Now acute HCV infection is asymptomatic in 85% of the cases, okay, and remember that severe acute hepatitis is rare. Chronicity is very common with hepatitis C, and around 80% of the cases which are infected with Hep C, they will become chronic. 20% of the chronic Hep C develop cirrhosis, okay, around 20 to 30 years, after 20 to 30 years, and they are also at an increased risk of hepatocellular carcinoma. Remember that the AST/ALT levels, they fluctuate in the chronic phase. Now the disease progression is associated with older age, male gender, alcohol use, immunosuppressive drugs, hepatitis B or HIV co-infection, obesity, type 2 diabetes mellitus, as well as metabolic syndrome. Remember, HCV is directly cytopathic. Unlike the other viruses which are non-cytopathic, here the HCV is directly cytopathic. Now the IgG anti-HCV antibody does not provide effective immunity because of genomic instability and antigenic variability which is seen in hepatitis C virus. This is classically responsible for the chronicity of the virus, okay, because the antibody, though present, cannot provide an effective immunity because all the time there are mutations in the antigen, so there is antigenic variability. So no single antibody can provide protection against these Hep C virus. Now unlike HIV, HCV does not integrate with the host genome, okay, where it can be latent. Therefore cure for HCV is possible with antiviral agent which is providing sustained response. But remember, one side effect is that these antiviral agent against hepatitis C is very expensive. So with this we have ended the hepatitis C, and we have completed the part 1 of viral hepatitis. Hope you have enjoyed this lecture. In case of any doubts, please do comment in the comment section, and please do subscribe and share with those in need. Thank you very much, guys.